A robotaxi company just announced major updates to its service, with a huge expanded service area and a fleet that has been growing exponentially. They even claim they will have a public launch soon. So let us take a look at what is happening with this big announcement and how close we might be to driverless taxis in our cities. So first, let's look at where this company is currently operating. Waymo has been operating robotaxis in San Francisco since October 2020, but only within a small part of the city initially. They have slowly expanded this area, though, and now cover a pretty large chunk of the west side of the city, including the San Francisco International Airport and parts of the financial district. In this new update, Waymo announced that it is expanding the service area by a lot, in fact almost 60%. This takes it from the current 130 square miles to over 200 square miles. That's quite a jump. The expansion allows customers to hail rides in the new areas. And some of these new areas are Daly City, which is a city south of San Francisco and one of the first suburbs of the city. Colma, which is another city just south of San Francisco. It's known for being one of the most densely populated cities in the United States, with about 22,000 residents in just 1.4 square miles. That's more than 3 times the population density of Manhattan. Colma has the highest population density in the U.S. because it's mostly used as a cemetery with around 1.3 million interred people and 70 acres dedicated to cemeteries. So yeah, not exactly a bustling metropolis. So it's probably not going to be too challenging for Waymo to expand into those two cities. But if we look at the map, we can see that there is still a big gap between the coverage of Waymo and the entire Bay Area. Even in San Francisco, there are many places where Waymo cannot go. There are also plenty of other cities in the Bay Area like Oakland or Berkeley, where Waymo is unpresent yet. But honestly, this is a good thing, because this means that Waymo is growing fast, and we could see these cities covered very soon. Maybe Waymo is also growing its fleet size extremely fast. 1 year ago, it had a total of 440 vehicles on the road. Now it has grown that fleet to 3,500 vehicles across the United States, and it plans to have 10,000 autonomous vehicles by the end of 2024. That is an incredible growth rate. At this pace, Waymo will have a fleet 5 times larger than today in just 2 years. Now, Waymo hasn't said anything about where exactly these new vehicles will be added. However, it has recently started testing in Austin, Texas, so maybe it will add some vehicles there. And finally, the biggest news from this announcement was that they aim to have a public launch very soon. In their words, they say, "Over the next few months, we'll begin publicly offering rides in the expanded service area." Now, when they say public, they do not mean that you and I will be able to go and call a Waymo whenever we want. They specifically mentioned that this is for the general public, meaning the general public will be able to sign up to be invited to use Waymo. But we do not know if this invitation system will actually work like the one they had before, or if they will actually open up the service to anybody. I really hope it's the latter. They also said that they would start this process in the coming months, but they didn't specify which months. So it could be June, or it could be December. We don't know. What we do know is that they said something similar last year. In March 2022, they said they were aiming for a public launch later in the year, but then nothing happened. So I wouldn't get my hopes up too high just yet. On top of this news, Waymo also announced that it had partnered up with several new car manufacturers, including Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi. This brings the total number of partners to 11. They didn't mention any specifics about these partnerships, though. All in all, things are definitely looking good for Waymo. Its service area is expanding. It's adding a lot of new vehicles to its fleet, and it claims that it will have a public launch soon. It seems like they are getting very close to having driverless taxis available for everybody. However, there are some problems here that we need to talk about. First, remember that San Francisco is a relatively small city. So for it to cover almost 200 square miles, it means that the actual area where they provide service isn't that big. When we compare this to the whole Bay Area, which has around 4,600 square miles, we can see that they are still very, very far away from covering the entire region. Remember that the Bay Area is where the headquarters of many tech companies are located, including Apple, Google, Tesla, and many others. And Waymo can't even cover the whole city of San Francisco yet. So yeah, they are still far away from having a real impact. The second problem is that while Waymo has a partnership with 11 different car makers, all of them are from outside the United States. Every single one of its vehicles is either a Chrysler Pacifica minivan or a Jaguar I-Pace SUV. Both models are not sold in the United States anymore, making it really hard for them to scale. In order for Waymo to truly scale, it needs to partner up with American car manufacturers like Ford, General Motors, or Tesla. We already know that GM and Ford are working on their own autonomous driving systems, so it's unlikely that they would choose Waymo over their own solution. Tesla, on the other hand, doesn't have a robotaxi project, so partnering up with them could be interesting for both sides. But Elon Musk is currently trying to acquire Twitter and has made it clear that he doesn't like San Francisco. So a partnership between Tesla and Waymo is highly unlikely to happen anytime soon. And the final problem is the safety of the vehicles. Yes, Waymo is considered to be one of the safest self-driving cars out there, but according to official reports, it is still far from perfect. From January to June of 2022, Waymo logged 179,000 miles, was driven in San Francisco, and had 63 disengagements per 1,000 miles. A disengagement happens when the vehicle needs to stop because it couldn't continue driving autonomously and a human driver needs to take over. For comparison, Tesla's full self-driving beta version 10 had 185 disengagements per 1,000 miles. So Waymo is safer than Tesla, but still not quite ready. With all that being said, I am still very excited about the progress of Waymo. Seeing all these companies pushing forward with their projects is great news for us. The race for robotaxi supremacy is heating up, and I can't wait to see what happens next. What do you think? Do you think Waymo will have a real impact on the industry? Or will it always be just a minor player? Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.